Hi, folks. This is Rick Doc Walker, the DOC.
This is John Kime, and you're listening to The Mess Hall with Rally Captain and Tailgate Ted.
What's going on, everybody? Unfortunately, it's another Misery Monday, but it's about to get better because I'm back in the mess hall with my man, Rally Captain.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Ted, man, I understand it's a Misery Monday, but I got to tell you, man, there's light at the end of the tunnel. 9 for 22. Just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you know what I'm talking about, and I'm sure our listeners know what I'm talking about, B-Rob, 9 carries for 22 yards for the young man's comeback. Let's get it.
Yeah, man, I can't wait to talk about Brian. I was in the lots for a while. We had maybe 300 people come by the tailgate. It was awesome. A long day. I was the only one cooking. Thank goodness Mrs. Tailgate came and she helped out, and I had a chance to take a breather and sip of water and maybe a beer or a dozen. And the lots were fun, man. I had a good time out there. We had 20 veterans come from Operation Warrior Wishes. We hosted a Gold Star family out there, gave them a place to go pregame and some priceless memories. And a lot of people ask, why do you continue to do this? And that right there is why, because we get a chance to host all these fans that, you know, a guy from Canada came, we had a guy from Dubai come out there. Wow. And that's why I'm never going to stop doing that unless a team forces me to stop, because we're raising money for a good cause and giving these people a home. I don't get a chance to walk around like you do. So I was curious. We know how the Eagles game was when you walked around. How was this Titans crowd when you were out there?
They were actually, what's the word I want to use? They were actually optimistic because they didn't know what was going to happen. Now, naturally, everyone wants their team to win, and they were saying, "Now we're going to win." But then some folks say, "I don't know how this game is going to play out," and I predicted it was going to come down to the fourth quarter, and everyone was like, "Nah, Cap, this is going to be decided before then." I said, "No, I just have a feeling it's going to come down to the fourth quarter," and sure enough, my prediction came true. It came down to the fourth quarter. But overall, the Titans fans were cool, man.
Were there a lot of them? Because I know I saw a lot towards the third or fourth quarter of the game on that away sideline. Did you see a lot in the lots walking around?
Unfortunately, I did not, because I had to cut off. As you know, I had to leave a little earlier than I normally would have wanted to. So I didn't really get to walk the lots as much as I normally would. So, but when I was there, I didn't see as many as I thought I would. But once the game started, like you said, they were all over the place.
Yeah, it was upsetting because I saw tickets going for $60 in a lower level. And I had a friend hit me up about clubs, and I sent them the email that we got from the commander saying that there are $99 seats in the club level. Well, there were seats going on the club level for $70 cheaper on StubHub. And yeah, when you factor in fees and everything else, it was still cheaper on StubHub to get tickets. So we're starting to get to that point in the season where fans are just selling seats versus doing that. And I'm going to implore you all, instead of selling your ticket for less than face value, consider donating it to Operation Warrior Wishes. This isn't a commercial. I've been working with these guys for a decade now, and they'll give you 100% tax write-off for the face value of your ticket. So if your ticket is $150, $180, get a tax receipt for that amount of money versus $60 on StubHub. To me, that just makes more sense from that tax donation perspective, unless you've already hit that. But, you know, this is an accounting podcast. I just want to let people know that that is an option. And at one point, a couple of years ago, I ended up having to get buses chartered from Walter Reed because of all the tickets we had donated, because the team wasn't doing well. People didn't want to go. So because you don't want to be there doesn't mean another fan doesn't want to take advantage of that. And I met an organization called Tickets for Kids, and they work with underprivileged youth that don't get a chance to go to things like this, and they'll happily take your seats and they'll give you that tax credit as well. And I'm not trying to tell fans to dump them, but if you don't want to go, or if you can't make it for whatever reason, let's see if we can put those in the hands of, you know, maybe some people that don't get a chance to do it and for a good cause, and maybe keep away some of those away team fans from flooding our stadium.
And it's a good thing that you're doing that, Ted, because a lot of times, like what you're telling me right now, I didn't know. So you don't know what you don't know. So, yeah. So the fact that you are putting that out there to people, because I'm telling you, man, I didn't know. And not to say that I'm all knowing or whatever have you, but there are a lot of fans who just don't know. So thank you, brother, because I believe, help other people who are looking for that tax write-off, who honestly are unhappy with the production on the field. We know it happens week to week. So if you can kill two birds with one stone, I implore you to do it. And like Ted said, hey, this isn't an ad for them. This is just letting the unknowing know. And I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, we all want to go out there and have fun. And we can only control the stuff outside the stadium and in the stands and that experience. We have no control over what's going on the field. We can definitely talk about it and we can raise hell about it. But, you know, I try and provide a good environment. You try and provide a good environment, and we definitely are. And the vibe in the stands, I made it in right before kickoff. So I got in and I saw them introducing Brian Robinson coming out the tunnel. And I was salty that I actually wasn't in my seat to film it, but there's so much footage out there. And I just couldn't be happier for that kid. I had a feeling that he was going to play the game. I think you owe me a beer in Chicago. But
I do.
We talked about it and saying, I got a feeling he's going to do it. And if they call him out in those stands and to come through that tunnel last, just the goosebumps you feel, because you couldn't be happier for him, knowing the adversity he has been through. And now he is, granted, wasn't starting the game, I don't believe. I think AG started, but that they called him out of the tunnel was phenomenal. I mean, I'm taking that as a win.
Well, like you said, he didn't start, but I'd say almost 6 plays or something to that effect, he was in the game. And so I couldn't believe it. So I was okay with him not starting, but basically 6 to 7 plays, I want to say, into the game, he came out. Man, my heart goes out to you, young man, straight up.
Oh, definitely, man. And this was actually a clip of the media talking to B-Rob after the game yesterday.
So, Brian, what was that moment like when you came out of the tunnel and they announced your name, the last one called?
That was great, man. Just feeling all that energy from all the fans. You know, obviously everyone who kind of missed the time that I was gone, and you know my teammates waiting on me at the end of the tunnel. Man, it was just one of those, you know, remarkable feel. I can't really explain it, honestly.
Did you happen to have a moment on the field where you reflected back on what happened and knowing where you are now?
Actually, I put all of that behind me. After I took the field and I prayed about it, and I put all of that behind me. You know, my focus was on being on the field and helping my team win. So, I kind of put that behind me, honestly.
Yeah.
There were some fans that were talking pregame, leading up to this, that it was going to be too much pressure on Robinson. Everyone was looking for him to potentially change this game, and to put all that pressure on a rookie that's coming back after being shot. Really, I felt that he handled himself well. He made the best out of his opportunities. Granted, we didn't have a run game yesterday, so I'm not upset with B-Rob at all for the fact that I think from a rushing perspective, we only had 43 yards on the ground. It just came down to it. Our offensive line's bad.
Yeah. And 22 of them came from him.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
He led the team in carries. He had 9.
Mm-hmm.
Carson had 5. Some of those are definitely scrambles, and AG had 3. And Jonathan Williams, the guy that you were calling about last time and were saying, hey, let's give him the rock, was active, but he got injured. So he got taken out of the game and didn't get a chance to do anything. So I'm not sure when that happened or what happened, but I don't see that he actually had a carry. One person that did get benched that I was surprised, but also happy to see, was William Jackson III. And I'm not sure if you noticed that when you're out there.
Yes, I did, and I called for that. I told you last week that if anybody needed to get benched, it was him. I also have some other guys, but we'll get into that at a later time as well.
Yeah. Oh, there are definitely a couple other guys that I would love to see not take a snap. And actually, I'm looking at the snap counts right now, and I don't see that Jonathan Williams actually got a snap. So I could be wrong. I'm curious to see when he got hurt or when it happened. But the interesting thing is
he on special team?
Potentially. Yeah, he definitely is on special teams.
Okay,
So
so
that's probably maybe when something happened. I'll have to look it up while we're doing this to see what went on.
Yeah.
Regardless, he didn't get a chance to get a carry, and he had some good carries last week against the Cowboys. And if he was active, it would have been nice to actually see him get a chance to do something. But seeing them finally bench, William Jackson III, I listened to the radio feed. So I bought a AM FM Walkman, and yeah, they still make those. Then I listened to Bram and Julie in London, and there's maybe a 2 or 3 second delay. But the nice is you're not streaming on your cell phone, so I can actually listen to their call when you're in the stands because you miss a lot of things. You're not sure what's going on. And Julie's a very good friend, and so is Bram. But hearing that they shot him down, the media actually asked Rivera about what happened to William.
Earlier in the game, it looked like you guys might have moved on from William Jackson. What was your thinking there, and could you kind of take us through that situation?
Well, we just decided to make a change.
And why was that?
Because we decided to.
With Jackson, how much of that was that his benching the missed tackle on 3rd and 1 there?
Well, I think, again, is we make decisions based on the flow of the game, and that was one of the things that we decided on.
So there was a 3rd and 1, and for those watching this on our YouTube channel, we'll put this up so you can actually see the video where William Jackson just completely whiffed on Derrick Henry, went right at his ankles. Henry basically just stepped over him and just looked down and laughed. And I'm exaggerating a little bit, but he hasn't played well. He hasn't done anything this season. He's getting paid a ton of money. Everyone knows that.
Stealing money.
Basically. And William Jackson actually spoke to the press in the locker room, and I couldn't find an audio clip of this, but he said, "I'm hurt. I've got a bulging disc in my back. They know that, and I'm not playing well right now." So it was very odd that Rivera didn't say a single thing about William Jackson being injured and having an issue with his back, because he didn't play against the Cowboys, I believe. I don't even remember him actually coming in there. I don't think he did. But he might have. There was a game where he didn't play.
He played.
Okay, so there was another game where he didn't play, and I remember we had Wild Goose. It was probably the Eagles. It was the Eagles game, and Wild Goose came in, and William Jackson said, "I've been banged up." So did he get benched for poor performance, or did he get benched and sat down because of his injury? And I think it was because of poor performance. I think that he's just trying to cover himself and saying that he's hurt, and that's why it's not working out right now.
Regardless of what it is, Ted, here's the deal. Your performance on the field shows that you aren't doing what you're getting paid to do. Okay? Let's take all our feelings out of it. Let's take all our feelings out of it. You're not doing what you get paid to do. So if you want to come back and say that you're hurt, okay, I'll buy it. But at the same time, don't dress out. Don't make it seem as though you're good to go when you're not. And then when all of a sudden a mistake gets highlighted and you're the cause of it, well, hey, here's the deal. Okay, don't dress out. That's all I'm saying. Be man enough. If you're man enough to say that you're hurt and this is going on, then be man enough to say, I can't go this week. Period.
Yeah, agreed. And it was week 3 against the Eagles that he missed. And he has been on the daily injury report since, but he's been a full participant. So he hasn't been limited. He wasn't a DNP. He's practiced fully. And this is what Jackson said in the locker room. He said, "I fight through it for my teammates, but things happen. I was just playing through hurt. It just seemed better to let somebody else go in. I got a disc, and there's nothing else I can do about it." You didn't have a problem with your disc before.
You're a casualty to the team as well as yourself.
Next, man, if you are not putting the best 11 people in on offense, defense, and special teams, you're doing yourself a disservice. And you'll get a very minor hat tip from me for the coaching staff sitting him, because St. Juice played better. He didn't have that bad a game. I mean, we got burned deep by a no-name Titans receiver because Bobby McCain lost the ball in the air. But I'm hoping this is a permanent change and that we don't see William Jackson out there as a starter. And granted, we don't have depth at DB. So he's going to get in there assuming he is healthy, because I don't want to see Wild Goose ever. But it's a step in the right direction to fixing the defensive problems. And the defense is not the issue right now. It's the offense.
No, exactly.
And
It really is.
one thing a lot of fans might not have known is Scott Turner was up in the booth for the game. So he wasn't down on the sideline. I'm not saying the team's listening, but we have been yelling, and a lot of other people have, put Scott upstairs, let him see the field, let him see what's going on. And is it a coincidence that Carson threw for 359 yards with Turner up there? I don't know. We have to see if this is a trend that the offense is going to start doing better. The problem I have is the offense just looked bad. And this is Carson talking about how you fix it.
Carson, I know with 4 straight losses, it's hard to look at the positives. From what you see, are these easy fixes? Like, can this be an easy turnaround, or is there more to it?
I think so. At the same time, I haven't watched film yet, and hard to say fully. I know some of the penalties and just communication things are for sure easy fixes and things that I can help out with. And so I'm confident we will get those fixed and get it ironed out. But as a whole, we got to watch the tape and learn from it. But I know we're right there, and there's a lot of good football teams in this league, and we just got to find a way to get a win and stay the course.
I don't know if what's going on is fixable. Unfortunately, I think it's a problem with roster construction, and I've been harping on that for a while now. And I don't see someone coming in off the street. I don't see a hidden gem trying to take care of all this. The only bright thing I can say is Tyler Larson is coming back. That is our backup center. Nick Martin had a horrible game. There were some snaps that didn't even make it to Carson's shins. And, Wes Schweitzer isn't a center, but he's played center. Nick Martin has been a center his whole career. And he's not going up against DeMarcus Lawrence or whoever, Micah Parsons lining up in front of him. The fact that he could not get a snap to Carson and his shins, he just throws everything off. And I'm not blaming all of this on him, but that's a position you have played your entire NFL career. There was no excuse for the performance that Nick Martin put out there. And also, more importantly, Andrew Norwell. That guy was a turnstile. And I was going to say something a lot worse, but he was a turnstile. He was just horrible yesterday. There's just no way around it.
Well, Ted, we talked about benching William Jackson. And if you can bench William Jackson, you can bench Norwell. Now, he may not be, at this point, we may look at it and say, well, who you got? I'm willing to try anybody. And I know the team, after they look at the tape, will be able to say, you just can't do that. You saw it last week against Dallas. You can't do that. We see it this week. Dude, he's a liability himself. So if he's hurt, if he's going through whatever have you, put somebody else in, and I'm willing to try with someone else than him right now. I really am. Straight up.
Yeah. And your backup is Chris Paul. So Chris Paul, offensive guard, we got from Tulsa.
Chris Paul, come on. You're the next lineman, and the Commander's price is right. Chris Paul, come on, brother. I mean, that's all I'm saying, man. At some point in time, you say it's fixable, which I know it is fixable. But the thing is, how much of your pride, and this is what I feel, it's your pride of who you pick, and they're not doing well. So because of that, take your pride out of it and put somebody else in. That's what's needed. We got a gut check. We got a gut check, bro. And right now, it seems as though our players are trying. We've got talent on this team, Ed. We've got a lot of talent. It's just a matter of putting them all together. And you know what? A lot of times I call this line gumbo. And I say gumbo, and you're a cook, so you know what I'm about to tell you. And anybody else who's a cook, they know what I'm about to say. Gumbo has a lot of things in it that you probably wouldn't eat by itself. But once you put it all together, it all comes together for a good meal. That's gumbo. So our offensive line right now is gumbo. And I saw some new guys on the line yesterday who did okay. But it seems like we're coming back to this one guy. Now, the center, okay, I got you. But I'm not focused on a center right now. I'm focused on Noel.
Yeah.
So take him out, put somebody else in. Let's see what we got. What do we got to lose at this point? Come on.
Carson snapping his leg. I mean, I hear you. I don't disagree with you. I think the problem is during practice, Chris Paul has not looked good. The thing is, we see how bad Norwell is. So you got to assume Paul is better. And until we see it in live game action, we're not going to know. And the thing is, I don't know if that's going to help. There's a thought of when Sam Cosmi gets back, you move Cosmi in to right guard. So this way you take Norwell out of there. And then you move Sadiq Charles, who you drafted to replace Trent Williams, out to tackle. So not sure that's what's going to happen. And really, we're shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic right now.
We are.
We're 1 in 4? None of this is going to make drastic improvements to the season. And I think my boy Cody Betts set this out earlier. We've got a 6% chance of making the playoffs. The fact that that is an actual stat, we actually have a higher chance of getting the first round pick than making the playoffs right now. And, you know, it's sad to say, and we're not going to start talking about draft position. And I am not a believer in tanking. If you're a believer in tanking, sorry, you're a loser. If you root for your team to actively lose, you're a loser. And I will stand by that. I don't care what people say about draft position, because what does draft position mean if you can't hit on the picks? And we've had a ton of picks. We're not the Ravens with Ozzie Newsome picking gems constantly. It doesn't happen here. So we're not even going to mention that when the season ends up, something has to be done.
Talk about it then.
You know, Carson had way too many formations where there was no backs. It was a shotgun empty set, no backs. And when he doesn't have someone beside him, it's almost like his security blanket. It's almost like his little teddy bear that he carries around that makes him feel comfortable if there's an RB sitting beside him. And I get you want to spread it out, but you know that Norwell is doing so bad and he's getting beat, and that Martin's getting beat so bad. Why don't you have AG or JD McKissick chip and hit that rusher to give Carson a couple more seconds to maybe free Terry, to maybe free Diame or someone else coming down there? I don't understand that part of Scott Turner's game plan.
Well, I did see, and I'm sure you saw it, where there was, I think, a couple plays where the tight end motioned to the backfield. It looked like the old, what do we call that? Where Griffin was playing. We had a tight end in the back. It was Paulson would be in the backfield along with the running back.
Well, it was basically a shotgun pistol formation where your tight end was beside you and you had a running back behind him.
Yeah, I saw that.
So,
I saw that, and when that play happened, we did very good. So it's almost like, why didn't you kind of stick with that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because like you said, that gave Carson that extra maybe mind numbing thing that he needs to help himself get through it. But I saw that and it helped him. I'm just surprised we didn't go back to it more often.
And I really think it's tendencies. Every play caller has the tendencies that they go to. And I kind of want to get, a rubber band and give it to Scott Turner. And every time he wants to call an empty set, have him snap that rubber band and stop himself. It's like, you got a buddy that's trying to stop smoking, and, he's on Nicorette, he's got the patch, he's got the gum and everything else, but he's still taking a puff every once in a while. So you get him that band to stick on his wrist, and then that pain and that reaction starts putting your head, oh, I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe, Scott, whenever you want to call an empty set or motion someone out, knowing you're going to put us in a bad situation, take that rubber band or take something and hit yourself with it, because it's a bad idea. And there was one play in particular where it was an empty set and we were on the goal line, and Carson, I want to say it was maybe a second, and just got rid of the ball. And I don't know if that was the first and goal or whichever one. We got to go back and look at it. For those that are wondering, it's Monday the 10th at 11:30 that Riley and I are recording this. I didn't have a chance to rewatch the game because I don't want to look at it anymore. But that interception, he almost threw in the end zone where he was throwing the ball away.
Away.
I mean, the man has a cannon and he just lofted it up there like it was a fadeaway jumper at the buzzer. And we are so lucky that defender caught it out of bounds. It's just so many things, man.
So that wasn't my end zone. And so when I saw it, I didn't know really what was going on until obviously the replay. And I just couldn't believe it. I just hit my head in disbelief. But fact is, it did go out of bounds. We were able to live another down, fight for another down. So I was happy about that, but just unhappy about what I saw a couple seconds before.
Yeah. And I know we all were. I mean, think EB from the Junkie said we had a 76% chance of winning the game. Some stat he saw, maybe it was on Next Gen, when it was 1st and goal at the 2. And to walk away with nothing was just so unbelievably frustrating. And speaking of frustrating, this is Rivera getting asked a question by my friend Scott Abraham over at ABC7.
Ron, 4th straight loss. I know you're not one for excuses. How did we get to this point? How did this happen, and how do you plan to fix it?
Well, we're going to play better. We're going to practice harder. We're going to go out and play football.
Any changes you can talk about right now?
We'll see what we're going to do after we get an opportunity to review the film.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last one. Ron, is it panic time right now?
For you, maybe, but not for me, Scott. Why? I'm not going to panic. Why? Because there's plenty of football left, okay? We're going to work our butts off to get better. That's all we can do, okay? I mean, that's the truth of the matter is, you know, and again, if you work and continue to work, eventually it's going to change. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change it. This is not going to happen overnight. It's never going to happen overnight. When is it going to? I don't know. But I will say, and I don't disagree with some of the thought process, there is a sense of urgency. And I hope everybody in that locker room has the same sense that I have.
So Ron was pretty testy during his press conference yesterday. And we typically try and get his Monday press conference, but today's a holiday and Riley wants to take the day off and hang out with his family. And I want to do the same thing with mine to forget about what just happened this weekend. So we're recording this early. But he was heated yesterday. He was pissed. And he keeps saying this isn't going to happen overnight. This isn't going to happen overnight. Well, Barry Svrluga from the Washington Post wrote an article on October 4th that Ron has had 1,006 nights to try and fix this. That now it is 1,012 nights, because, you know, that was the 4th, that we still got a problem. And Ron might not be panicking. And I don't think the fans are panicking anymore. And that's the problem, because apathy is starting to set in. People are starting to realize.
You said the fans aren't panicking? Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah. I don't think they are. I don't think the
fans are panicking. The fans around me are panicking.
Fans are angry.
It's a duality of panic and angry. They're both. So no, we are panicking because now, just like we said earlier in the earlier segment, people are selling their tickets. That's a sign of panic because they don't want to be involved with the dumpster fire that's happening.
So to me, it's definitions. To me, that's not panic. That is apathy because they just don't care anymore.
Okay.
They're realizing we're not a playoff team. A lot of people had high hopes going into this season, bringing in Carson Wentz and Jahan Dotson and potentially the defense being better because of an easier schedule. Basically, all of the Kool-Aid the team was feeding us. And if you believe what the team was saying and you drank their Kool-Aid, then yeah, you're panicking because we're 1-4. Those of us out there that didn't think we were a playoff team, that didn't think the schedule was going to be easier this season, that what's on paper does not translate to actually what happens during the season. It's completely different. I think the panic is done. I think it's how do we get out of the Riverboat Ron boat? And I don't know how that happens or how you fix that, because Ron is saying that it's going to be fixed, but it doesn't happen overnight. It's, you know, like I said earlier, over 1,000 nights we're in this. And he himself put this timeline together. he is the one that talked about a 3-year plan. 3 years. And we're here. Yeah. And the team is regressing. They are not getting better. That's the part that's so frustrating.
You just took a line from me. I swear that we take 2 steps forward, but 5 steps back. I mean, for once, the offense was moving the ball down the field. I saw better footwork out of Carson. Okay, but on the bad side of that, like you said, that last one of the last passes that should have just been thrown out of the end zone. I mean, a fan could have had a free souvenir. Basically, is what should have happened for that game. Okay, realistically, a fan should have been walking away. We lost, but I got a football from Carson Wentz. Should have been the situation, but it did. He threw that sucker up in the air like a freaking punt. It seemed like, as long as it stood in, it was in the air. But 2 steps forward, 5 steps back, and the only way that you're going to be able to fix anything is to make those hard decisions on taking certain people out. That's what's got to happen. I would rather see, and you may disagree, and our listeners may disagree with this, but I would rather see, hypothetically, Norwell be taken out and our backup lineman come in. And if he does a bad job, then you can always put Norwell back in. You can, but you've got to be able to do something different. You have to. And until then, we will continue to be where we are. We just will.
I agree with you. If Norwell plays like he played, he does not deserve to be on the field. The problem is it's roster construction. You don't have a lot of people to go to. And I would like to do this on a different show. I want to look at our roster, basically when Gruden got fired and what Ron has turned it into now. Because the offensive line, when Gruden was here, and, we all know Trent Williams wasn't going to stick around. We had hoped that Rivera was going to be able to talk him into it, man to man, but they traded him. The fact that you let a Hall of Fame left tackle go for a 3rd round pick, for nothing at that point. I understand you cannot sign Brandon Sheriff, but the fact that happened, we are in a worse situation now, I feel, than we were when Gruden was here. And that is a little bit of a stretch because wide receiver, we are better. From a wide receiver perspective, we had we had Josh Doxson here. We had Terry McLaurin here. We had Paul Richardson. So wide receiver, better. Offensive line, worse. We had Trent Williams, Eric Flowers, Chase Rie, Brandon Sheriff, Morgan Moses. Those guys are studs. And right now, the only person that's still here from that line is Chase Rie, and we know he's gone. He's hurt.
For the rest of the season. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, though, Ted. And no, go ahead. I'm sorry. You're about to say.
No. Go.
Well, what I was going to say is this. For the last 4 years, all we did was beef up our defensive line. And as you said, our offensive line guys have slowly been picked off, and you've replaced them with underperformers or underachievers. All right. So that same way that you beef up the defensive line, you're going to have to do the same with the offensive line. You just are, because we know between Allen, Payne, Chase, Sweat, we know that somebody is not going to be able to get paid. However, it's going to be time to go back into deep into your doggone pocketbooks and pay those guys, because you got them here. Otherwise, we're going to be flip-flopped again. In the next several years, what we touted, our defensive line, we are now going to be flip-flopped to have to pay money for the offensive line. And now those guys are going to, as you know, slowly start being picked off. And we're going to be right back 3 years from now. We're going to be right back where we're having the same conversation and saying, but God dang, man, the defensive line was so good. Or like we said before, the offensive line was so good. Now here we are. So it's you're danged if you do, danged if you don't. But at some point in time, you got to change that and bite the bullet and do what you got to do.
See, the thing is, Allen, Payne, and Sweat were great Jay Gruden picks. the only defensive line pick was Chase Young. And Chase was a no-brainer. And you've got people that want to have revisionist history saying we should have taken a quarterback. Rivera would not have gotten this job if he told Dan Snyder that I am drafting a quarterback with a second pick. He had to try Dwayne Haskins out. God rest his soul. This was Dwayne's second year. You cannot punt from Dwayne Haskins that early. There's no way the owner or any franchise would have let you just kick it that quick, other than Josh Rosen that got punted from whatever team drafted him first. So we weren't going to get a quarterback that first year, so they had to take Chase. Is Chase going to be good? Maybe. Is he going to be great? I don't think so. It's still too early to tell, but right now, he's maybe not going to be here until Halloween, and we'll see what happens, but that's not where the problems are, and we have not invested in that line. And you draft a Sadiq Charles, you draft a Chris Paul, you draft these guys hoping they can step in, but it just, once again, talent evaluation, roster manipulation. These guys are not good at it. And we are now potentially in a worse situation than we were before. And you've got like the Giants, Brian Dable, first-year head coach. They're 4-1 right now. And everyone was thinking Daniel Jones is going to be benched. These guys horrible. He's going to be sitting down. Granted, he's not the reason why they're winning a ton of games, but this is Dable's first season. And if you looked at rosters at the beginning of the year and you compared the Commanders roster to the Giants roster, you would say that we are a superior roster to the Giants. But if you look at record, we're 1-4 and they're 4-1. And in my mind, that comes down to coaching. And we are losing in the column that means the most, which is coaching. Now,
what we've always said is paper doesn't play the game.
No, it doesn't. And Rivera has had 3 winning seasons in his entire NFL career. So I don't understand the infatuation with Ron Rivera. And I'm going to Chicago. You're going to Chicago. They love him there. He's an icon there. I've got some good friends that are in the Bears Hall of Fame for fans, and they love Rivera. They're so upset when they see my tweets and things like that about Ron. It's like, you guys don't know Ron as an Italian evaluator. You don't know him as a coach. You know him as a player for the 85 Bears.
85 Bears. That's what exactly. You hit it on the head. That's what you know him as for that short stint. Well, how many years has it been since 85? Let's move on,
Yeah. And I'm hoping we get a chance to move on, because I really think that this man is in over his head. And going back to the press conference, hats off to Grant Paulson. Grant asked him a question that Ron got pissed about.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, what was the thinking? You called a timeout at the end of the first half, but then didn't call it the next play.
Because they started moving the ball forward. And instead of just slowing it down so they could take the opportunity to really think about what they wanted to do. And then we also thought we would go in and just, reset ourselves, and because we were getting the ball to begin with.
Did you think about it? Might have had 47 seconds and a timeout left.
I did think about it. But, again, you get backed up and get in a hole, and you give them an opportunity to score as well. I mean, that's 2 ways to think out of it.
And then one more just time thing. At the end of the game, you called back-to-back timeouts. Mm-hmm. Did you guys have 2 plays called out of your timeout?
Well, part of it coming out of it just depends on what the situation, circumstances is with the ball. Okay, I called back-to-back because, again, when the referee went down to the ground, I was trying to yell timeout, but he was obviously down at the ground.
But out of that first timeout.
Right, but I'm just saying, though, that's what happened.
I get that.
Because if he doesn't give me a signal, we don't know where the clock is dead or not. And then as soon as we knew the clock wasn't dead, we had to call the timeout.
Totally get that. But I was just curious if you guys called 2 plays out of that timeout, maybe saving a timeout for later when you got down to the goal line.
Well, part of what we did was you got to understand you just don't call plays to call plays. You have to have what happens if you get a play and yes, exactly, but you get a play and you're going forward. Yeah. It's not always just calling plays to have plays.
Thanks.
And this is where the old dog new tricks thing comes in, because other coaches understand it's not just down and distance, it's situational awareness with the clock. And going back to the clock, we had a chance in the first half to potentially call a timeout and get that ball back with maybe 50 seconds. And I brought this up on our Cowboys recap. It's like they didn't trust Carson or want to give Carson a chance to move that ball down the field. In the Cowboys game where we had a minute and a half. Okay, I somewhat get that because in Dallas, you got to worry about Parsons, you got to worry about Lawrence. But there is none on that tight defensive line that scares you like the Cowboys pass rush does, or the Eagles pass rush, or the Lions that just blitz everybody. You didn't have faith in your quarterback to potentially get us into field goal position and do something. And to not give Carson a chance to potentially have those two plays in his pocket or to even trust him, and you're wasting those timeouts. And those timeouts were key because 1st and goal from the 2. If you're listening to this, you watched it, unless you're a family member of mine that is just doing it to support us. But 1st and goal from the 2. I mean, you had no timeouts.
Shout out to the family members for listening. We appreciate it.
we really do. Actually, my sister-in-law came to the game with me the other day and has never been to a game before. And I don't think she watches the games religiously like we do. And I do know she's a subscriber. So we appreciate all the family members and everyone that subscribes.
We really do.
But man, 1st and goal from the 2 with no timeouts, with 19 seconds left, you put yourself in a bad situation. And Grant's question was legitimate. You wasted those 2 timeouts there. You call one, great, but calling both of them, knowing you have no timeouts left, you just screwed yourself. And John Keim went back and watched the film this morning. God bless him, because I could not go back and do it. And here he says, Tennessee did a really good job defending the last sequence of downs. They rushed 3 on 1st and 3rd down, and they rushed 2 people on 2nd down. They knocked Bates to the ground on 1 release. They jammed McLaurin hard on the other, and they took away the middle of the field. Knowing that Washington could not run that ball, they only rushed 3 and 2. So you're in a tight window in the end zone where Carson had no place to throw that thing. And you put yourself in that situation because of your head coaching decision. Because you wanted to challenge that Cam Sims catch. Anybody could see that that was not a catch by Cam Sims.
Oh, bro, don't start with that. Come on. You know what? From my perspective, I saw that wasn't a catch. And I had fans to the left and to the right of me say, no, it was a catch. It was a catch. I said, guys, I don't know what you saw, but it wasn't a catch. And sure enough, it came out that it wasn't a catch. And I saw that.
I think it's just people don't know the rules. And we'll put this on the YouTube again if you're watching. But Cam's didn't have his hands under the ball. The tip of the ball hit the ground. And then on top of it, I didn't even see the ball move until they showed the replay in the stands. But then the ball moved around and he didn't have control of the ball going to the ground. So even if you don't know the rule that the tip of the ball can't touch the ground, he still didn't even have control. And Rivera wasted a timeout on that. So we potentially gave 2 timeouts away that would have been crucial in the end. Because we've got a couple of voicemails here, and we've got some text messages from some listeners. And one here, let me jump in. Let's see if I can find it. And one in particular. You know what? Let's go to a voicemail here from Commander JD.
JD.
Tailgate Ted, this is Commander JD checking in again. I know y'all was at that game, so y'all saw what happened just now, right? Why the hell did we throw 3 straight times when we're at the 2-yard line? Did we not learn anything from the Seahawks when they lost Super Bowl? I think it was 49 against the Patriots when Russell Wilson tried to throw. It looked like the exact same play. Run the damn ball. We got Brian Robinson back. We could have won this thing. See, it sucks to lose no matter what. But it's even more frustrating to lose when we could have won. Well, maybe because we're out there playing. Seems like every week we're out there playing our opponent and the refs. calls. But anyway, on to Chicago. Rally and everybody attending the Chicago event out there. Y'all have a good time. Peace.
Appreciate it, JD. Really thank you for calling in and taking the time. And he sent this to us 4:30 yesterday. So he must have just left the game and got out of there and got back to his car, because I didn't even have to send anything out to fans asking for tweets and emails and voicemails today. People are chiming in unsolicited, which we really appreciate.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
And going back to your comment, JD, I hear you, man. I don't agree with you. I don't think that you can run the ball there. I get it's first and goal from the 2 and you got 19 seconds. But if you try and run the ball, I don't have faith in this offense to get set up again properly without having a false start or having some kind of offensive penalty, assuming you don't get in on that carry. And if you have an offensive penalty with that much time left and you don't have a timeout, it's a 10-second runoff. The risk versus reward there is too great, in my opinion. That's why you cannot run that ball. That's why you have to throw that ball. But I have a problem with the routes that were called.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you are throwing routes to the interior where the defense was stacked, that you did not have a fade to Cam Sims in the back of the end zone try, that you did not try and throw it up to Cole Turner, who is your stud tight end in training camp that's got some size. Logan Thomas didn't play, but you've got these big body boys that you could have done something to instead of trying to dink it and dunk it to J.D. McKissick or Curtis Samuel and guys that got bumped off the line.
I don't even think Cam Sims was in the last play of the game.
No, I don't think he was.
Yeah, he wasn't in the last play of the game. They had a smaller package in.
That's what frustrates me. And that goes back to play calling with Scott Turner up in the booth and what's going on. And I don't know if you agree with JD, but I don't think you can run that ball in that situation with that time on the clock.
So I agree. And everyone's asking the same thing. Why didn't we run the ball? And the mere fact that you scoffed a timeout, you've got to have the clock stop instantly. So on one aspect, yes, I understand that we wanted to try to run the ball. I got to tell you though, Ted, there's a part of me that wishes that we did try to run the ball, but in a different set. Go back to the eye. Go back to maybe Carson trying to jump over the top. I don't know, man, but it just seems as though, and I know that it looks very easy. It's just 2 yards, but we know that sometimes a half of a yard in the NFL is very hard to get. But what I would almost think about is, since we want to talk about the 85 Bears, how you say, hey, Allen, Payne, we know you're banged up, but I need big bodies on the line. Fire out and block the guy in front of you. Just push that guy back with all you got. I'm interested to try, if you know, put these bigger bodies in, the way that Refrigerator Perry came in and ran the ball for a touchdown in the Super Bowl. That's what I would be interested in. I know it's far-fetched. I know it is. But I would think that when you know that your guys aren't getting a push, maybe you practice something different. And people are going to say, Cap, you're smoking crack. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. But at the same time, I know for a fact that Allen is a big boy. Payne, big boy. Line them up just together on one side and just run the freaking ball down the throat. If we lose, we lose. But I'd rather lose that way than the way that we lost. So I understand what JD's saying, you know, and I know Monday morning quarterback, you can say whatever have you, but Ron Rivera, if you're listening, put some of those stud defensive guys on the offensive line in a short situation like that and have them fire out.
And they did have a couple eye sets where they're going double tight and triple tight. So it's in the playbook. They do have them. Granted, this is not with defensive linemen coming in. This is with your tight ends coming in, and they can't even afford to go jumbo because you don't have enough linemen anyway at that point. And jumbo is when you bring an offensive lineman in as an eligible receiver and he's lining up as a tight end, even knowing he's just going to block. To me, if you do that, you have 4 bites at the apple if you throw.
Yeah.
You get 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky, if you run. And that's assuming you don't have an illegal procedure penalty that gives you a 10-second runoff. So there's just too many things in that scenario that could go wrong. But I do appreciate people's thoughts on it. I just think it was the right call, but the wrong play design. And this is where losing Jahan Dotson hurts you the most. He is our red zone threat. We saw what he did against Dallas. We've seen what he's done. He's got 4 touchdowns, and yeah, all of them in that red zone. And he's got a knack for getting open in those short yard situations. And you lost that today yesterday. And really, I think that's what caused part of us to not have a good chance. And I don't know if whoever took Jahan snaps in practice this week just didn't do those routes like Jahan does there, but something obviously has to change. And hey, maybe your refrigerator Perry scenario, dude, we're 1-4. Let's bring everything out. Maybe start putting a suggestion box at FedEx Field and fans can start chiming in with napkin play designs.
No, it's not a matter of napkin play designs, but what I'm saying is you have guys who I feel, and once again, this is Rally Captain's view. This isn't anybody else's view. You have guys who, look, you line up the guy in front of you, fire out, look at the ball since it's going to be loud at the end of the football field, into the stadium. Look at the ball. When the ball is snapped, you fire out and hit that guy because that back is coming right behind you. You got to try to run the ball, man. You just do. And because, like you said, they were set up perfectly to be able to defeat the pass, especially that particular pass. So, but hey, I'm not going to harp on it. It's done. You can't change it. The Bears are up next.
Yeah, they are. And we'll focus on the Bears on our next show. But this is a text we got in from Rafael Rubio. Rafael said the last play at 3rd down and 2 goal at 9 seconds left on the clock, it was extremely loud at the end of the field. Carson had a hard time listening to his helmet with hands over his ears, and I believe he could not hear because, one, he looked at the sideline like a motion to repeat it again. And this is a text message. So I'm not sure if Rafael sent this in with talking to text and having it transcribed, but he also put, he did panic. You can see it. Throwing the ball at the 13-yard line where he was at the back after the snap, there was more opportunity options of a better play design. I was told and seen there was a lot of injuries, Commanders on the sideline. Last option here, run it through with 24 or 8 and push would have won the game. Basically, Raf's saying we should have ran the ball, saying that we could have had a bootleg, we could have did a reverse. They asked Rivera, why did you not try and move Carson out the pocket? And Ron said that if you bootleg, the play takes too long to develop and you've got 19 seconds. I'll add personally that also if you bootleg, you are immediately eliminating the other half of the end zone because your quarterback is only looking at the half he is bootlegging to. Unless you're Patrick Mahomes, you're not throwing backside across your body to the other half of the end zone. That's just asking for disaster, and we all know what happened anyway. But a bootleg isn't going to work there for that reason, and Ron addressed it. A reverse is just, it takes too long. You have 19 seconds. You're going to waste too much time on the clock for that. And Monday morning quarterback, I get it, and I do appreciate you chiming in, Raphael. I just think in that situation, because you put yourself in a bad situation without having timeouts, we were stuck where we were.
Okay, I got something for you, Ted. So this wasn't the last plays of the game. Well, actually it was, but it wasn't on the 2. And you'll understand where I'm going with this in a second. And our listeners will understand where I'm going with this in a second. Because Norwell was getting blown up the way that he was, we had a play designed, and it was Curtis Samuels, quick snap, the ball around the outside. It was wide open. But because Norwell was getting blown up, he false started. If he could have managed, and I know if, woulda, coulda, shoulda, but where I'm going with this is it would have put us in better field position because, and who knows what would have happened because from my standpoint, my line of sight, there was no one around that quick snap to Curtis running around the outside. We did it in Dallas, and we did it with Terry a couple times, I want to say, but he was wide open. But because Norwell was getting blown up, the play got called dead for illegal procedure. You know what I'm talking about?
No, I'm looking at it right now, and that was 1st and 10 on the 26. And Norwell had a false start penalty. Then we went back to 1st and 15. Carson got sacked after that. And then 2nd and 23, and this is just reminiscent of that Cowboys game. Every time we had an offensive penalty, the series ended in a punt because we dug too deep a hole that we can't get out of. At this point, these guys can't get out of a 2-inch hole. I mean, a false start penalty should be something that you can overcome. The problem is when the mistakes happen, they happen in bunches. To have a false start and then have a sack after that is just, it's killer. The good news is we were able to get 14 yards back because J.D. McKissick scrambled his ass off, and we were back in 3rd and 9, which is still manageable, but we were 1 for 11 on 3rd down.
Can't win like that.
No, 1 for 11 on 3rd down. No way in the world you're going to win. We were 0 for 9 on 3rd down. We didn't get our first 3rd down until our 10th try. So there's just, and it wasn't because of penalties. And there were definitely a lot this week. And jumping into it, we had 9 penalties for 71 yards. Those little things add up. And the penalty that I want to say really turned the game around was that roughing the passer penalty on F.A. Obata. And Obata just killed us with that call. And it really shifted the momentum of the game at that point. And there was nothing that we could do to come back. It was 3rd and 8 from the 40. And Obata, I have to go back and look at it, but everyone I'm hearing talk about it says it was a legit call. If you watch the Tom Brady roughing the passer call that the Falcons got against him, I mean, they basically sneezed on Brady and they called roughing the passer. So we'll put that up on the YouTube as well. But this Obata hit on Tannehill was crazy. And that completely changed it. And, we all know what the end result was.
Yeah.
But jumping back into the text messages, we got one here from Tim Trainer saying, I guess this is a statement and question rolled into one. It's my belief/theory that the Snyders will fire Coach Rivera seconds after the forthcoming big news drops to act as a diversion to the newest scandal. Not that Ron Rivera doesn't deserve it regardless with his win-loss record. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think that that the Snyders are waiting to fire Ron when bad news drops, because nothing they're going to do is going to distract people from whatever news drops. And I don't want to speculate on bad news dropping. And it's why Rally and I have not focused on the supposed things that are coming out. Is something coming out? I don't know. When it does, we'll address it.
Yep, exactly. There's no reason trying to see something that may not be there, or when it happens, we will obviously give our take on it. But until then, we don't know.
Yeah. And I'm not one of those that is chasing down rat holes. I remember when the whole Ron Rivera being friends with Epstein rumor came out, and I got text messages from anchors at different TV stations in the market asking me if this was true. Like, you guys are ridiculous. You're trying to find stuff, and that's why we're not going to chat about it. But we do appreciate you listening, Tim, and for chiming in.
Definitely.
Now, this one's from Reggie. And I had a chance to see Reggie at the team store on Saturday when I was there. And he obviously came to the tailgate yesterday, and he put, Misery Monday. Where do I begin? This is Reggie. I drove up from North Carolina, got to hit the new team store Saturday. Thanks, Cap, for confirming it's open and the hours. To my surprise, I see TGT in store and again on game day. Had the pleasure to eat his good food during the tailgate. Watched an entertaining football game, but extremely disappointed in the fact that our 4 running backs had a combined 12 carries. It wouldn't be so bad if one of those 12 was across the 2-yard line for the winning TD. But no, our play caller has his Madden joystick out calling pass after pass play when our left guard can't do anything football related. It will get better. Defense is doing their part. Hail. Reggie, you're definitely a P1 on the show, man. And if we had a shirt in your size, I would get it to you. Have you seen Reggie in person?
Yes.
That's a swole dude, man. I won't get into it on here. I'll tell you after the fact. Almost got into a fight in the parking lot. And yeah, that's a story that we'll save for a off-air pod.
Well, wait a minute. Maybe I haven't met Reggie because it's a different Reggie then.
Yeah, if you met Reggie, you would know. He's got some muscles, man. He's a big dude. And
Okay.
I'll send you his tweet that he took a selfie there. But maybe Reggie, can you play right guard? Because they could use you, man. I was joking that I played left tackle in high school. And granted, I've lost 30 pounds in the past, couple of months. I don't think I can suit up at right guard, but I'd like to try. I think Reggie could play right guard right now. We could probably just get him a jersey and take Norwell out and put him in.
It goes back to something that we said, and I'm gonna let you jump back into this, but you let Eric Flowers go for whatever reason, and we still don't know the full story behind that. Maybe they'll have a 30 for 30, and Eric Flowers, ESPN, will come on and tell you, well, the reason why I didn't come back to the Redskins / Washington football team / Commanders is because then we'll know. But until then, anyway, let's move on.
Well, they offered Flowers an extension. They just lowballed him. And Flowers basically got insulted with the offer and said, no, I'm not coming back. So
well, there you have it.
He also isn't on another roster. So either he's made enough money and will only come back for a certain dollar amount, or he's just done. And I also don't think that bringing Flowers back is going to fix the problem. He's going to help because we know what he did when he was here. But if Flowers does get signed, this isn't going to get fixed. We're still shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. And
well, yes, it's not going to solve the problem, but it will answer some questions that fans such as myself and even you have said we think that he could be better.
Oh, he's got to be better.
Yeah, that's all. That's all we're saying.
I mean, I think you would be better than Andrew Norwell. I'm not knocking you. I'm just saying somebody's got to be better, And I'm going back to The Replacements. It's a fun movie. Love it. It's about the Washington Redskins, for those of you that don't know. But I remember they brought that sumo wrestler guy in. He came in during the strike season, and they had this big sumo guy in there. Maybe go to like a sumo spot. Maybe you can find someone that way and get them to just stand there. And that way he's got to at least go around him because he can't go through him because the guy's too big. I don't know. You got to do something, man.
Yeah.
But we got another text message here, and I'm trying to see who actually sent this. Going through. This is a text from John. First, John sent me a picture of a guy in the stands asking who this was. And John, I don't know who that guy was you took a picture of. I'm not sure. But he put, just another misery Monday. There has to be changes. I love my team and always will root for them. But once again, clock management and calls are horrible. Let's just go to the end. Don't we have Cam Sims, 6'5", Armani Rogers, 6'5", John Bates, 6'6"? Why are we throwing the ball in the middle of a 2-yard gap between the line of scrimmage and the end zone? Coach Rivera is a great guy, but he was let go from Carolina after losing to Washington, and then we hired him. He brought up a staff from Carolina. Now all of our top free agents, Norwell, Turner, are turnstiles in the middle of our line. If it is this or that didn't work in Carolina, why would it work here? Okay, on a Thursday, and let's go get a win. And I agree with you, John. I mean, we got Rivera fired. After we beat them, the Panthers fired him. They were so embarrassed that they lost to us. They canned their coach. We brought him here. And granted, Rivera is a coach that we had to have at the time.
Yeah.
I think we're all in agreement there. But that time is up. And I'd like to see a change. I just don't think we're going to see a change in the time frame that it needs to happen.
Well, just like we won't speculate. We won't speculate. Time will tell.
We won't speculate, but we got another voicemail here, and this is from Robin. So let's let Robin chime in here. You got Snickers?
Not
This
going
one's going
anywhere?
to be a minute.
Okay.
Good morning from a native Virginian in upstate New York who is in mourning, spelled with a U between the O and the R. Think that us fans all feel like that today. To start off on a positive note, applause to Stephen and Ted as our rally captain and Hell Barbecue host. Both of you work so hard to assure that our team's fans have a fun and memorable experience at our home and away games. Thank you. Now for my thoughts as a senior fan. First and foremost, I feel sorry for the generation of young fans that have not known the winning years as I once did. If our team wants to fill the seats at FedEx Field and have the support of their fan base, we all know that the tradition of winning needs to return to old D.C. I do not see that happening with the current regime that is at the helm of our team. We have too much talent on our roster to be losing games. Perhaps changes need to occur from the top down. In my honest opinion, we need young, innovative coaches and more youth. I sound like a broken vinyl record that has a scratch, repeating the same thing over and over again. It's the 90th year anniversary of our team, and in my opinion, very little effort has been put forth to commemorate 90 years of the burgundy and gold. If ever there was a year to bridge the generations, that was and is this year. No commemorative anniversary apparel or memorabilia has been available to us fans. It is as though Washington is trying to erase our past as they move forward with a new team ahead. My thoughts for the future, our team has 2/3 of a season left. I don't buy into playing for the draft. We have too many opportunities to get marks in the column on the left. I, for one, and I feel confident that I am speaking for thousands of other fans, want to smile on Sunday afternoons. I am tired of being disappointed and sad week after week, game after game. It is up to the coaches and players to bring those smiles back to the sidelines and in the stands at FedEx Field. On to Doug Bears. Get the damn win, Washington. Hail.
And Robin, I'm just teasing you. We love you. We appreciate you. You chime in on Facebook. You chime in on Twitter, leaving us voicemails. You're sending us text messages. We know you're listening. We know you're watching. And thank you for that. It really means a lot to Rally and me and to everybody that interacts with the show. But
She didn't lie.
I'm going to disagree with the 90th anniversary thing. And the team has put out a 90th anniversary patch. They've got shirts that have the 90th anniversary stuff on it. So there is merchandise for people to buy. Whether you like the merchandise is a different story. So I like the 90th anniversary patch. I bought a polo. I want to get one of the patches to maybe put on my jersey, but they're sold out, so I can't find one right now. Is the team going to sell Redskins gear? No, we're not the Redskins anymore. Are they going to sell gear that's got a Native American logo on it to honor the 90th anniversary of this team? No, they're not. It's offensive to a subsection of people, and the team's not going to do that. So that patch is what we're going to get. And if you don't like it, and I'm not saying Robin, I'm just saying everybody, if you don't like it, there are bootleg places out there where you can still get gear or you can have stuff made. But the team cannot put anything out there that has the old name on it. They have moved away from it. And I am 1,000% on board with supporting this new name, this new brand, still the same franchise. Now, I agree we need to win. All I care about now is just watching competitive football. And we got a competitive game yesterday.
We did get a competitive game, but we've always said it's how you lose that makes the difference. And how we lost yesterday just still doesn't sit well with everyone. It was a very competitive game. And once again, my hat goes off to the defense because they have stepped up. My hat goes off to the offense, certain parts of the offense, because we were able to move the ball. It's just I honestly believe we've got to reshuffle the deck and put some new guys in. And I know you said you don't want to see Wild Goose, but the mere fact is they are trying. And if it means putting, as I said, taking what's his name out, if it means taking Norwell out and putting in someone else, then I'm willing to try it. And if the experiment fails, then at least we'll be able to say we tried. That's what I care about. We tried. We may not win, but hey, look, we tried. So instead of doing the exact same thing from week in and week out.
Thing is, there are 53 guys on a roster. You will lose, and I think it's already starting to happen, but you will lose your locker room if you do not put the best 11 starters on the field. And mathematically, they're still in it. They're not making the playoffs. I hate to break it to people that still are holding and grasping onto that, but mathematically, they're still in it. So until they are 100% out of this thing, they're not going to try and put in young bucks to get experience. And I know what you're saying is not to put them in to get experience, but just to get some other options. The problem is the depth of this roster, the talent level that goes from your first string to your second and third string is a drastic drop. And if you were to try and put in those second string and third string guys, you are now doing the other guys on the team a disservice. And Rivera said this himself when Dwayne Haskins got benched. He said that I've got 52 other guys in that locker room that I also have to take care of and put the best option on the field. So he sat Dwayne. Now, eventually, he's probably going to have to say the same thing about Carson, that Carson just isn't getting it done. But Carson did have 359 yards yesterday and a QBR of 102. I don't put this game on Carson as to why we lost. There's definitely a lot of things, but if your defense holds someone to 21 and they hold Ryan Tannehill to 181 yards and Derrick Henry to 100 yards, you would expect to win this game. If I give you those stats ahead of time and Carson had 359, you'd expect to win this game. It came down to the last series not having timeouts. It came down to 9 penalties and not converting on third down. That last drive was a 20-play drive. 20 plays.
2-0.
Why can we not get that on a consistent basis? Why can't we do more than have 3 and outs? That's where some of the frustration is, for me at least. And I do agree that there is talent out there, but I always like to think of, okay, and this is a bad example because the Rams aren't doing well this year and neither are the Bengals, but look at the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are on fire right now. Is there anyone from our team that the Bills would take and replace from their team? Maybe Deron Payne. But other than that, would they take Terry and put him on their squad? They've got Stephon Diggs, so to have a Terry beside Diggs is good. But is there anybody else on our team that you can say would actually earn a roster spot and be on the starting 11 for the Buffalo Bills? I don't know. I can't think of a ton of them.
No, I can't right now.
And that to me is where you're talking roster deficiency. And I want to get to one more voicemail here, actually 2 more, just because you all took the time to chime in here. This is from Cord.
When is this team going to finally realize that you need to play 4 quarters? We get down to the 1 yard line or 2 yard line. We got to punch it in. You got 24 seconds, no timeouts. At least run the ball once, get up, spike the ball, then take your chance to throw the ball. Carson Wentz has no mobility whatsoever. Put Heineke in there. Heineke can run around, make plays happen, and win you a damn ball game. But with that show we have with the coaching staff all the way down, we're not going to win another game. Not going to win another game like that. We had a chance to get some momentum going into Chicago, and we blew it. Absolutely blew it. It's disgusting to watch this every week. They wonder why the fans don't come out. Would you want to come out and watch that? However, I'm a diehard. I believe you should go to games, ride or die with them all the way through the season. But, man, it's painful every Monday to come up on here and tell it how it is.
Cord, we appreciate you chiming in and telling it how it is. And we've already talked about at least what we think should have happened and running the ball in that last 19 seconds. But it is painful, man. And I appreciate you still going to games and being out there with rallying me and still supporting.
Definitely. I'll say that the only thing I don't disagree with what he's saying on some levels, but the thing is, I don't believe that you can put Heineke in hypothetically the last play of the game simply because, yeah, he's mobile, yes he is, but he's cold. So sometimes bringing in a backup can provide a spark, and sometimes because he hasn't had the flow of the game, speed of the game, it can hurt you. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't think that bringing him in for the last play of the game would have been the difference. Now maybe if he played the second half and he found the speed of the game to catch up, then maybe I can understand what you're saying. But bringing him in for the last play of the game, I don't think that would have made a difference.
It was a 20-play drive. Carson had 16 plays in that drive. You can't put Heineke in at that point to take over the last 4 plays of the drive after Carson got you down there. This isn't like a fantasy football running back that's sniping touchdowns away from that back that drove, 3/4 of the way down the field. And the other piece is Heineke runs the scout team plays during practice. He's not getting first team reps during practice. What happens during practice during the week is those reps are going to Carson. And you have your backups running the other team's plays. And Sam Howell's running them too. Heineke doesn't have the game plan. He doesn't have the timing down for what's going on. Yes, we all know he loves to die for that pylon, but was that enough? Would that have been enough? I don't think Heineke would have won you the game. I just would have liked to see more creativity from Scott Turner with the weapons you have.
And we've got weapons.
They definitely do. And as one of our other texters said, a bunch of 6'5" guys, and you're going in with the Smurfs. It's what are you going to do? And obviously it didn't work. And given the situation again, you hope Scott Turner would have changed things. But unfortunately, it collapsed to what it was. And this is our last voicemail from Johnson.
What's up, guys? Look, again, I'm doom and gloom for this team of 3 names. What I witnessed Sunday, again, lack of discipline. We have no discipline on this team. Play calling, no discipline, nothing. Defense look good. Special teams sucks. Overall, we need to get discipline back on the team. It's as simple as that. Johnson out.
I do love the last part of his call when he just says Johnson out. I might just end all my phone conversations saying tailgate out and just put a little mic drop.
Captain out.
It's got a good hook, man. Maybe we should all start doing that. Or we send a text message, just say tailgate out or whatever out at the end of your text message.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I had a cell phone that you could actually put a signature in.
Yeah.
Where you send a text and it has your signature at the end of it. My signature was HTTR. And there was this girl I was dating and she thought I was calling her a hater. And I had to explain to her what HTTR was. And we never spoke after that because she didn't understand what HTTR was. And I realized it wasn't going to work. But yeah, that might be my new thing. And I agree with you, Johnson. There's a lack of discipline on this team. There's no way around it. 20 penalties, 20 penalties in 2 weeks. You're talking 136 yards against the Cowboys and 71 yards this week. So over 200 yards in penalties in 2 weeks. That is not a well-coached team. That is not a well-disciplined team. And I would expect, and I remember, and I was actually going to cut it up, but I ran out of time this morning, Ron Rivera talking about, you do this my way, and his whole spiel. Well, Ron, your way right now isn't disciplined, and it's just not working. And I'm not sure what we're going to do to get it fixed, but I want to try and end this on a positive note. And instead of a good, bad, and ugly, let's just talk about who would get to wear your rally chain this week.
Well, Ted, I've got a bona fide first teamer, and then I've got an honorable mention, if I may.
All right, give me your first teamer.
De'Ami Brown. He's my first teamer for being simply because he scored on 2 deep balls, and that's what we brought him in to do. And so because De'Ami was, in all intents and purposes, he was fighting for a spot on the practice squad. He just was. But because of my man being out, he's my brain fart, but because
Jahan
was out, Jahan being out, he was able to step up. So he gets to wear the rally chain. My honorable mention is Montez Sweat on defense.
I don't hate those at all. And I was worried you were going to take mine, and you did, but it's fine. I was going to actually say Montez, and Tez is definitely a easy one to say. So De'Ami had 4 targets, 2 touchdowns, 2 catches, and it was 105 yards. I mean, he had a heck of a game, and one of those balls, I think on the second touchdown, he had to adjust. I think it was pretty. He definitely had a great game, and I mean, he stepped up. I was hoping it was going to be Cam Sims stepping up. I was hoping that Cam would have had a chance, and from a snap perspective, on a snap breakdown, it looked like Cam was out there 59% of the time, and De'Ami was actually out there 32% of the time. So Cam had his snaps, and I don't know if those were design runs when Cam was out there, but we didn't have a ton of runs. So maybe he just wasn't getting separation, and some other stuff was going on, but hats off to them. And for me, because you took those 2, I would have to say Brian Robinson, just from all the adversity he has had to overcome, all the spotlight on his shoulders, also being a rookie. If this was a vet coming back, then it would still be a big deal, but it wouldn't be as big a deal. For a young man that is just getting his first sniffs of the NFL to do what he did, and okay, he had 22 yards. That's not the point. This is, a Disney story. This is a 30 for 30. And the one thing is, on his first carry, he runs off tackle, and I think he got a first down, but then he got called back because of a holding penalty. And that's just kind of where we are right now. But trying to focus on some positives, there were some positives from this game. And De'Ami and Montez finally getting his first sack, and knowing that Brian is going to be there for Chicago when we take on the Bears, I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do, because that is a winnable game. And we'll get onto that in our next episode. But really appreciate you guys jumping on and rallying me. And it's going to be a long season, but we appreciate you all sticking with us through all of this, because we got each other's back. And Mondays are group therapy sessions, and we appreciate you guys chiming in during the session.
And don't forget, for everyone that is coming to Chicago, because we're moving on now, we're going to have a fan rally from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Over-Under Bar. So no matter what, continue to rep it hard or don't rep it at all. Tailgate Ted, Rally Captain. We're going to be out.